well, I don't agree with XYZ that Justin Trudeau and the cabinet is doing, but you've voted for it. You've stood by it for this whole time. And now you're saying that you don't agree with it. As the water rises higher on the sinking ship of the Liberal government, yet another MP and former minister jumps off to try and find a lifeboat, or a life preserver, or that floating door that Rose wouldn't let Jack on in order to save his life. However, this MP wants all of us to know that he has been against a lot of what his government has stood for. You know, because he has to get a real job after this, somehow.
Now, Marco, you didn't think we would just let you slip into the night without commenting on this, did you?
And I'll be happy to take more questions.
Let's take a look.
Let's go to Ottawa now for some news that's just into our newsroom. Another high-profile Liberal MP will not be running for re-election. For more on this breaking news, let's bring in CTV's Judy Trin for more. So, Judy, what can you tell us? What are you learning?
Scott, what we're learning is that Marco Mendicino, an MP for Eglinton Lawrence and the former cabinet minister for public safety as well as immigration, is stepping down. He has said that he will not run in this year's election. In a lengthy statement that he provided to CTV News, he said that he was no fan of dollar amounts and fanfare of government announcements, but he did give us a clue as to the frustrations he was feeling and what led to this decision. He said it's the right time to do this for his family. And he says, it is no secret that I've disagreed with the current direction of the federal government on our foreign policy vis-a-vis our deteriorating relations with the state of Israel, our inadequate handling of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and our enfeebled role in the Middle East. As a matter of principle, I have been consistently outspoken in my condemnation of the unjust targeting of the Jewish community. So, Scott, this is a man, an MP. Marco Mendicino was seen as a rising star within the Liberal Party. He was basically dropped from cabinet last year after his handling of the Paul Bernardo case. Serial killer Paul Bernardo was transferred to a medium security institution, and that was done, and it was without his knowledge. He did not keep abreast of that file, Scott.
And Judy, with so much turmoil already for the Prime Minister, what could this latest departure mean for the Liberals and the future of the government right now?
Well, we know at least 16 Liberal MPs will not be running again in the election. We do know that in a statement from the Liberal Party, they told us that they have approximately nominees selected in about 132 ridings, but there are 344 seats, so they still have to fill those positions. We also know that their chances for a re-election, if you are a Liberal, are really low right now. They are more than 20 points. They have, some polls show them behind the NDP in tracking. So these are the issues. We also know that since December 16th, that was the day that Chrystia Freeland announced that she was stepping down as the finance minister, triggering a massive chaos within the party. Basically, she's staying on. She will run, and she'll most likely put her hat in the ring for the leadership. But there have been renewed calls and greater calls for the Prime Minister to step down. Since December 16th, the majority of caucus members of Liberal backbenchers are now calling for the Prime Minister to resign and for there to be a leadership race. And this is all happening in the context of the Trump presidency. He's going to be inaugurated, Scott, on January 20th, and that's a full week before Parliament even resumes to deal with this issue.
Just a couple of weeks away from the incoming U.S. administration, CTV's Judy Trin with the latest on this breaking news story on another Liberal MP not seeking re-election. Judy, thanks so much for the update.
Okay. I normally don't talk about the reporters, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was quite the report.
Land the plane.
Yeah.
Land the plane. Even the anchor was getting impatient. Wrap it up, Judy.
They got to fill up that airtime, I guess. But I mean, I'm honestly not shocked that Mendicino is stepping down. He got removed from cabinet. I think it was back in the summer. And I mean, where do you go from there? It's a demotion is what it is. And if we look at Mendicino's riding currently, it's polling very blue.
Well, yeah, this is, let's get real. This is the real reason why Mendicino is resigning here. You know, the amazing thing is that every single Liberal MP and minister that is resigning, it's for the same reason. It's to spend time with their family. It has nothing to do with the fact that they don't want to get their butts kicked in the next election.
Yeah, the Liberals have a less than 1% chance of winning that riding again.
Well, they have the same chance as the NDP have of winning that riding. So what does that tell you?
It looks like it's a better chance than the Green, though.
Yeah, at least they have a less than 1%. The Green don't have a greater than 0%, so they don't. Not
a snowball's chance.
But yeah, this is just too rich. And he did post his resignation letter on Twitter. Take a look. And in this, he says, you know, it's been the honor of a lifetime to be MP, and I'm doing this and stepping down for me and my family, and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, I've received a lot of support from the community. And yeah, we've seen some of those videos, Marco, where you were actually called out in a synagogue in front of the Jewish community because they hated the job that you were doing. But you go on to say, I disagreed with lots of this government was saying, and I've been very outspoken about it, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, of course, now that he says I'm not running is when he's saying, oh, but, you know, I disagreed with Trudeau and everything like that, because please hire me after this is done. I need to get a real job and make some money so I can continue to, you know, actually live.
Right. I mean, that right there, though, is a very long letter to announce one's retirement. He's not leaving right now. He's still an MP, and he's going to stay on an MP until we go to the election. But I don't know. It seems like he's almost as bad as the other guys who are now turning on Trudeau because they know they're going to lose their seats, but they intend to run again. At least Mendicino has the wherewithal to gracefully step down and retire before he gets annihilated in the election. So,
well, what I don't like about this is he's essentially saying, you know, I disagreed with this government on our stance with Israel and all this and all this and all this and all this, but not so much that I'm going to stop getting my paycheck, and not so much that I'm going to actually leave my seat. So,
I mean, at this point, we're kind of like right on that precipice of, if an MP leaves caucus or leaves the House, like if they just step down and leave their seat vacant, we're on that precipice of whether or not they go to by-election, because if a seat is vacant within 9 months of a scheduled election, then they will not to go to a by-election. So we're like right on that line.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't smell very good. And Mendicino was a terrible minister. He didn't keep track of anything.
Well, and he never knew anything, right? If the staff, it was always the staff's fault. Oh, the staff didn't tell me. I didn't get that email. The staff didn't tell me. Yeah.
Well, and guess what? The buck stops with you.
Right.
So why is that staff still there if it was the staff's fault? And that's what he was even called on in the House of Commons, because he kept saying, well, you know, it was my team. So then Pierre asked him, okay, how many people have been fired from your department?
Right, because again, the accountability stops with you. Like, one of your staffers may have done something absolutely ridiculous, for example. I'm not saying they actually did, but hypothetically, maybe they could have. And you're accountable as the minister. You're supposed to do something to fix that.
Well, and if it was something as egregious and important as not letting you know that basically the most famous serial killer in Canadian history was being transferred from a maximum to a medium security prison, and nobody knows about that, that's a big problem. So if it was legitimately a staffer's job to know that, then the only proper way to handle that is to basically stand up and say, something happened in my department, we're doing an investigation, and I will come back with the results of that investigation. And then you come back and you say, the investigation has concluded, there was negligence by somebody in my department, they are no longer working for me. And that's all you have to say. That's all you have to say. That's at least showing that you take this seriously and you've held somebody to account. Now, maybe the reason he didn't do that is because it wasn't a staffer's problem. It was in his email box. He didn't do anything. Maybe he was handed a briefing and he has the reading habits of Justin Trudeau, where he doesn't read anything, even though Katie Telford tells us he reads everything.
Of course, the Prime Minister reads any documents he does receive.
And he couldn't fire anybody because it was his fault. That's my guess and what actually happened here.
Right, and that would be why he was no longer minister.
So, but again, timing is very interesting. Why didn't you do this in the fall? Why didn't you do this before Phelan resigned? Why didn't you do this before the Atlantic, Ontario, and Quebec caucuses have written Trudeau saying, get out of here?
Well, I think it's because a lot of these Liberals are looking at the polls and going, there's no way I am going to win this riding. Like, no way, not a snowball's chance, right? And instead of going to election and putting in the effort and doing all this work for a losing cause, they're just saying right now, I'm done. Once an election's called, I'm done. I'm retiring.
Well, it's it looks good on them, essentially having to run for the doors, but you still wish they would have just stuck it out to get trounced in the next election, because they deserve to lose.
Well, I think the part that's upsetting me the most is now you're getting these Liberal former ministers and current MPs coming out and saying, well, I don't agree with XYZ that Justin Trudeau and the cabinet is doing. But you've voted for it. You've stood by it for this whole time. And now you're saying that you don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the consequences of the way you've voted have affected all Canadians. And now you're telling us you don't agree with it? Come on.